Well, friends, it is time for the adventure to come to an end. What's up, everybody? D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today I'm bringing you my memories from Anime Matsuri 2021. This is the adventures of Sunday, July 11th through Monday, July 12th, 2021 at Anime Matsuri. Picking up right where we left off, I woke up super early the next day. In 2019, I got the opportunity to go film the Godzilla Store on the morning of Sunday, way before the convention opened up, and I expected something similar to happen this time. I had been told by the manager of the Godzilla Store that that was the plan, and so that's what I was counting on. I was so very wrong. I wound up actually being one of the very first people to the convention, period. I was one of the first people on the convention hall the entire day. I showed up along with 3 of the 18 plus models, and we just kind of hung out until we got let in, and finally we got let into the massive and empty convention hall. Now, I don't know what it is about myself, but I really love the aesthetic of things that are supposed to be filled with people but that are completely empty, these sort of liminal experiences, and so I wandered around the convention hall getting tons of footage of it being completely empty. In fact, I showed up so early the lights weren't even on yet. No vendors were even in the entire thing. It was literally just me and these 18 plus models hanging out. This is despite me showing up to the Godzilla Store later than I did in 2019, so I really wasn't all that early in comparison to the previous year I went, but regardless, despite the time that when I filmed the original ad, it had already passed, I was still like the first person wandering around. I got loads of footage of what was left in the Godzilla Store, and actually a lot of this footage wound up being used in the Godzilla Store documentary I made. And as with 2019, the store had almost completely sold out on day one, just representing the success of the store overall. Eventually, Dalton came down with some of my camera gear, and so he and I hung out while Kyle slept in for a little bit longer as we checked out what was going on.
Sunday, July 11th, 2021, final day of Anime Matsuri Godzilla Con.
Yes.
D-Man, how do you feel?
Sleepy. We tired on this one.
Yes, we all be very sleepy. So do all the people who were here, because they were all up partying till 3 in the morning.
Epic
Yes.
raves.
Epic raves and epic drinking. Remnants of Matsuri, legend himself.
The convention opened up and a ton of people came in, including Kyle, and this was another great day of hanging out with Joe. He showed back up and wanted to hang out with us, and so who are we to say no?
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you.
This day I actually went around getting little gifts for all of the HODLs to show my appreciation and gratitude to them. So for Joe, I got him some Yu-Gi-Oh cards he wanted. Ko, I got him a pack of Pokemon cards. I got Kaylee, her mom, and her dad a little Kong. And then I got a little tiny Mothra for Kaylee's youngest sister, Lynn. I also offered to get Kaylee's oldest sister a gift, but she didn't really want anything. And I know I really haven't talked about Kaylee's oldest sister, but she was so awesome. She was so nice, she was great, she was incredibly smart and incredibly mature, and I hope she's doing well. As for Kaylee's youngest sister, Lynn really seemed to like me for some reason. She was also hearing and speaking, so her and I talked a lot. She loved to just play around with the stupid toys that I kept buying, like I kept getting stuff from the Godzilla Store, and she loved to play with that stuff. And the reason I got her a little Mothra is because I wound up buying this Mothra plush, which she was just obsessed with and kept wanting me to play with. So me, her, and Ketsi wound up playing with this Mothra a ton, which essentially boiled down to her either trying to make it ride my head or me putting it on hers and trying to get her to balance with it on her head. This was also the day that the Godzilla Store started to play some Godzilla movies, which was so freaking cool. They played Shin Godzilla and Godzilla King of the Monsters, and the movies drew in this really big crowd and added this life to the Godzilla Store that it wouldn't have had otherwise. It was so cool. During the King of the Monsters showing, TJ Storm even showed up and sat down with the audience to watch his favorite parts of the movie, which was incredibly iconic. Again, TJ Storm's genuine love for Godzilla is such an excitement to see, and it is so awesome to get to hang out with him and experience those moments with him. The boys and I then got chick from this walking stand and ate on the floor of the convention hall, marking the first actual lunch I got for the entirety of the convention. At one point, I got to meet up with John Lee, the owner of the convention, and we talked a lot about the behind the scenes of the convention and how crazy COVID had made everything, and I didn't notice at the time how minimal the people at the convention were compared to 2019 until looking at the footage in comparison. The footage of the 2021 convention is a little emptier, and especially the footage of Texas overall, including that abandoned mall we went to, which was closed because of COVID, creates a picture of a really sad transitional state the world was in 2021 that I didn't really realize the extent of while I was living it. I got a final autograph from Kaylee on my Kong and Me book, which was really cool. And then I also snagged a Godzilla 2014 autograph from TJ Storm and got a few pictures with him because of course I got his King of the Monsters autograph in 2019. Last time in 2019, I trolled him during our pictures by posing like Shin Godzilla with the upturned hand. He was joking about that with me before we took the pictures. He was like, "You better not do Shin Godzilla again. You better not. You better go legendary." And so I went legendary. Right as the pictures were being taken, I posed as Kong to mess with him, and he was cracking up about it. He was like, "Get that out of here. No Team Kong. None of that allowed." I just loved joking around with TJ about that stuff, and I'm glad he was such a good sport about the Team Kong stuff. It's really fun to be able to tease Godzilla himself about Team Godzilla, which was awesome. It was also on this day that I got to meet up with Godzilla Fan 2007, who was doing his own vlog of the convention that I very briefly appear in.
What's up?
What's up?
Hope everybody on the internet's doing well.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
I'm not nice.
Thank you.
I got to see Davis, Titan Goji, one last time to have a formal goodbye with him, which was nice. And then finally someone ran over to Kaylee and I and told us that we were both needed for the closing ceremonies and might appear on stage potentially. Both of us had really no clue what was going on and we were very nervous about it, and I really didn't want to talk in front of a crowd, so I was pretty freaked out. Kaylee teased me because she could see and tell that I was super shy about it and very nervous about going up in front of all those people. It was a real one of these moments. She could tell that I was very shy and she was making fun of me for it. And another shout out to Kyle and Dalton for being able to film the closing ceremonies and get that on footage because of course I couldn't. After the closing ceremonies, TJ took off immediately, so he and I said a super rapid goodbye, and then the convention closed and it was time for everything to come to an end. As the huddles were leaving, they actually couldn't find Joe. He disappeared and they needed our help finding him, so Kyle, Dalton, and I wound up splitting up to look for him. He was found by them, they were all looking for him, but we never actually got to say goodbye to him as a result, and then the convention just kind of closed and we were left walking around as it was being torn down. It was actually this really sad moment. None of us really wanted to leave the hall. I think for me it felt like the longer I was there, the longer I put off the reality that the convention was over, because I have such an incredible time at Matsuri that it's really hard for me to see it go. Luckily I was able to bump back into Ketsi one last time, and I actually got her to sign my badge, which she was super nice about, and so I at least got to say a formal goodbye to her, which was the most important thing for me.
Derek's doing final interview or two before we leave. Godzilla shop is almost completely torn down except for that bad boy, because from what I heard, it heavy AF. Everyone's closing up still, just kind of hanging out, and we'll be out of here soon too.
We then went to eat at this place called The Rustic, where the food was great, but we were all so depressed that none of us really had an appetite, so it was this really quiet and kind of somber meal. And the worst part was that when we left The Rustic, we realized that all the attendees of Anime Matsuri had rightfully left. It was like within the course of a few hours, we found ourselves as these forgotten relics of a time long gone. Walking around dressed in anime garb like we're the last leftovers of this different world as the adult world came back in and the fun was gone. And that's really how the end of the convention feels, because it's this mythical fun time where you just get to go be a goofball with a bunch of anime fans, and when it comes to an end, you're like ejected into the real world that is not as exciting. No one was dressed up, everyone was normal, there's no cosplay, no decorations, everything was gone, and it was all in the past, immortalized in the footage I took of it. I found myself needing something to do to distract myself from the fact the convention was over, and luckily I did have an interview with Denise Lee coming up at some point, and I didn't want to go far into the city as a result, so I wanted to stay close at the hotel and wait for her word on when we were gonna do it. And so finally the time came to make Dalton's dreams a reality, and we played some Mario Kart on the TV. It was actually a lot of fun. Ketsi then came in with this final save. She redeemed the afternoon for us as we were all kind of bummed. She said that the boys wanted to go swimming and were really sad that we didn't get to say goodbye, so they were wondering if we would go swimming with them. And so naturally we joined in an instant. We finally got the proper finale to the trip as we went swimming with the guys, and it was awesome. We did this race thing around the pools where like I would have Joe on my back, Dalton would have Co on his back, and we'd try and race through the lazy river at the hotel they were staying at. It was a lot of fun. During this, Kaylee was practicing more of her jumps and swims, and it was super fun to watch her and her father Joshua try that stuff out. Eventually that did have to come to an end so we could go do our interviews with Denise. Big thank you to Denise for doing those interviews with me. Those are like so awesome. Those interviews are really great. They really helped shape the Godzilla documentaries I made coming out of this convention, and I loved doing them. They were super, super important to me. So big thank you to Denise for making those happen. It felt like a true proper conclusion to the entire trip. We had just a few minutes to kill before it was time for the interview, so we went up to the roof of our hotel and checked out the view, and it was beautiful. This included me filming a final vlog of the convention to end all things and to cap it all off, only to discover I never actually pressed record on the camera.
Post AM boys! On the roof of
The city.
We're on the roof of the city.
We're in a city beat.
I definitely didn't just record this clip and forget to press record. I would never. I'm not an amateur. I do this all the time. It's a cool view, actually.
It is pretty cool.
Maybe I should start doing my videos up here.
And there's a Toyota Center to the left.
There is a Toyota Center to the left of us. All right, I gotta get going. See you guys.
As it turns out, I was actually really horrible with filming this first weekend. My journeys to Anime Matsuri in many ways represent my journey as a filmmaker. Starting out incredibly shy and unaware of what I was doing, in this convention I had some of the theoretical practices but none of the practical capability to pull them off. And in 2023 I felt like I really blossomed into something awesome, which I cannot wait to show with you guys. I hope I can continue to go out there and continue to grow my craft with Anime Matsuri. Being a part of the Matsuri family means so freaking much to me, you have no idea. So we went and did our interviews and it was great. Big shout out to Kyle for getting alternate angles of the interviews during this and for reminding us to talk about the Godzilla hotel rooms, because we did an interview about the Godzilla store and then both Denise and I were like, perfect, we are good to go. Only to realize, because Kyle pointed it out, we totally forgot to talk about the Godzilla hotel room. And at the very end, Kaylee and Joshua came up one last time to get some food from the hospitality room, so I got to say a formal goodbye to them, and we went our separate ways. It was super nice. Joshua gave me this big hug, and it was just so kind. He thanked me for babysitting Joe the whole time and for how important that was for them and how much it helped, and it was really, really nice. So then the boys and I packed up and went to sleep, ready to leave Houston the next morning. We woke up super early the morning of Monday. This was a full weekend of miles and miles of walking, staying up until 2 a.m., waking up at 7 a.m., and doing it all over again every single day. It was a weekend of emotional highs and excitement, overstimulation and junk food, and now was the time for the sugar crash. None of us wanted to leave, most of all me, and as we were leaving, I got some final footage of the hotel room as we were on our way out. We took a ride in the elevator where the lights completely shut off and it was pitch black, which was kind of hilarious.
Scary Val elevator. I was gonna try to make a pun, but I couldn't do it.
Elevator.
Elevator.
Throw up again.
And then we got down to the lobby and had Chris pick us up to give us a ride to the airport. Big thank you, Chris. We took this tired boy selfie as we headed off. Our adventure concluded in the exact same place as my 2019 trip started. The exact landing gate from 2019 was our departure gate for 2021. It felt very poetic. We played Mario Kart, then boarded the plane, and we took one final pic on the plane as we took off. During this, I added what was at the time my 15th viewing of Godzilla vs. Kong to my belt. To start the journey on the plane, I turned on the song We'll Meet Again, which felt like a very fitting end to the trip, and the flight back was this wild fever dream. I was so exhausted and sleep deprived and emotionally worn out, and I desperately needed sleep, but I was trying so hard to stay awake to finish the movie that it resulted in me drifting in and out of consciousness during the flight, so I kept seeing faces and hearing voices from the weekend, catching glimpses of people I had seen at Anime Matsuri before my very eyes. It was so weird. I finished the movie and decided not to start another one, and Kyle watched the Rocky Horror Picture Show and then started 2002's Scooby-Doo. I told him that there was no no way he'd have enough time to finish both movies, and sure enough he did, because upon landing our plane was delayed. He even had time to start Predator, ending it on the iconic handshake. That's like literally the last frame we ended it on, so the next person getting on the plane would start there. We got off the plane, which had both Karens and Darrens yelling at each other as we were trying to leave, and then we started our way through the airport. At this point I was still kind of loopy, and I swear I saw this kid running past that I thought was Joe, and in my head I was like, oh crap, we gotta catch him before he gets lost. All of a sudden I blinked and the kid like was a completely different kid. It was really wild. We made it home and I checked my foot to find that it was incredibly blistered from all the walking I had done, and so it was time for a much needed rest. I sat down to decompress a bit and recorded this real sad vlog. I got a little sun, you can see. I'm back. I made it. I can't believe it's over. It went so fast. Even those points where it was like a lot of time is passing and I'm not doing anything. Even those. It's over. It's just, it went by really, really quick. More so than 2019, more so than G-Fest. Just more now than ever is like, oh, I'm back in the real world. It's sad. It's really sad. So I'm very, very tired. I look forward to, hopefully, a real good night of sleep tonight. It's Monday the 12th. Anime Matsuri has officially ended. After that, I woke up and went and sat on the couch with my cat and woke up a few hours later. I was kind of like in and out of consciousness. Post-convention depression has never hit me this hard. It hasn't hit me as hard before or after. It was wild. I think it was because it was the first time since lockdown that I had been surrounded by that many people, and within an instant it was just over. I was back in a big empty house all by myself with no one else, and so it was really weird. It kind of still hurts to think about, and it started this weird insecurity for me where I feel like I've never really been good enough or lived up to the Matsuri legacy, at least in my head. I feel like I'm constantly disappointing them, and so it's one of the things that always freaks me out about posting these videos is the idea that I'm gonna let them down, but it's something that I'm actively trying to work on and trying to do better to get over. But this is where it started, was this moment, sitting on the couch upon landing, where I felt like, did I even do a good job there? And so it's been one of the reasons I've had big insecurities about sharing my adventures at Matsuri, but it is that kind of mental roadblock that I'm trying really hard to overcome so that I don't keep getting in my own way. Time heals all wounds, and this is definitely a wound I'm mostly healed from, and I'm readier than ever for another convention, and I really hope I get to go in 2024. That should be right around the corner, and Godzilla and the Godzilla Store are both going to be back in a big way. As we conclude Anime Matsuri 2021, I'd like to give a final thank you to Anime Matsuri, to the Hoddles, to Chris, to Davis, to Matt, and to both Denise and John Lee for making all of this possible. Thank you guys all for the wonderful memories, and I cannot wait to make more with you. Thank you guys all for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons over on Patreon. It is through the support of the patrons that I'm able to continue to make videos in the first place, and so if you want to support the Patreon, you can use the link in the description below, where you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you all next time for the next one. D-Man out.